Let us begin by reading aloud the word problem. So, Carlos and his friends want to rent a limousine for 3 hours. The cost is $95 per hour. How much money will he and his friends have to pay for the full 3 hours? So again, our strategy for problem solving. For step number 1, we always want to analyze the problem. And when analyzing the problem, the first thing you ideally want to do is determine what it is that you want to find, or what question it is you want to answer. So in this case, the question that we want to answer is, how much money will he and his friends have to pay for the full 3 hours? Once you have determined what it is you want to find, you have ideally determined what it is you're going to assign the variable to represent. So we can already do step 2. So in this case, step 2, we'll go ahead and use the letter x, and x is going to equal the amount of money that Carlos and his friends will have to pay for the full 3 hours. So again, that came directly from the question, and ideally it's the question reworded in the form of a statement. So now let's go ahead and go back to analyzing the problem. So let's see what other information we can extract. So we know that they want to rent a limousine for 3 hours. So therefore, go ahead and highlight that. They want to rent a limousine for 3 hours. And what else do we know? The cost is $95 per hour. So let's talk about a few scenarios here. The first scenario being that suppose they wanted to rent a limousine for just 1 hour. Well, 1 hour, since the hourly rate is $95 per hour, that 1 hour would amount to just $95. Now suppose you wanted to rent it out for 2 hours. Well, that would amount to $95 for the first hour, plus another $95 for the second hour. Another way to rewrite that is we could do 2 times $95. So these two statements are the exact same thing. 95 plus 95 is the same thing as multiplying 95 by 2. So then let's actually try to expand on that and talk about the equation for 3 hours. So if we wanted to do 3 hours, the long way to do it is going to be 95 plus 95 plus another 95. Again, that's 95 for each hour. Since we have 3 hours, we have 95 for the first hour, 95 for the second hour, and 95 for the third hour. But again, since it's the same hourly rate per hour, we could just do 3 times 95. And that would be the cost of the 3 hours for limousine service that's going at a rate of $95 per hour. So again, the key thing here is for 2 hours, and each hour being $95 per hour, we multiply that 2 by the hourly rate. Similarly, for 3 hours, we're going to multiply the hourly rate of 95 by 3. And therefore, if we wanted 4 hours, we would have 4 times the hourly rate of 95, and so forth. So now our equation is going to be, well, we know the hourly rate is $95 per hour. So we'll go ahead and write 95. And we want to know they want to rent the limousine for 3 hours. So just like our examples, we're going to have to multiply that by 3. And that's going to be equal to the cost for the full 3 hours, which we decided to be represented by the variable x. So in this case, our equation is going to be 3 times 95 equals x, where again, the 3 represents the number of hours they want the limousine for, 95 represents the hourly rate for the limousine ride. And again, x is what we assign the variable to represent, which is the amount of money that Carlos and his friends will have to pay for the full 3 hours. So now that we have our equation all set up, let's go ahead and solve the equation. So again, when solving the equation, you want to start off with the original equation you created in step 3. So that original equation being 3 times 95 equals x. So in this case, the x is already completely isolated on the right-hand side of the equation. So all we need to do now is multiply 3 by the 95, and we'll go ahead and do that off to the side as scratch work. So we'll do 95 times 3. So we'll do 3 times 5, that's going to give us a 15. We'll bring down the 5, and we'll kick up a 1. So now we'll go ahead and do 3 times 9, which is 27. However, we have a 1 upstairs, so we're going to have 27 plus 1, which is going to give us a 28. Therefore, 95 times 3 is equal to 285. So now we can just go ahead and bring down the x in our equation. And on the left-hand side, we'll have 285. And then again, the units for that are going to be dollars, since we are paying with dollars here. So now we know x is equal to 285. So now let us state the conclusion clearly. Therefore, Carlos and his friends will have to pay $285 for the full 3 hours. And again, the conclusion is simply the question to be answered reworded in the form of a statement. So now the last thing to do is go ahead and check the result. So again, when checking the result, you want to start off with the original equation. So we're going to have 3 times 95 is equal to our variable x. However, we already know that our variable x is equal to 285, so we're going to go ahead and substitute that in for x. Everything else will stay the same, so we'll also have 3 times 95 on the left-hand side. So all we really need to do is multiply 3 by 95. However, we already did that, and we have shown that 3 times 95 is equal to 285. So what we have here is 285 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we have 285 as well. So 285 is indeed equal to 285. And since we have a true statement, our solution is correct. So that verifies our solution.